The Gemara is addressing that issue, and the Gemara is now going to be questioning one of those opinions that it was stolen, and then subsequently a mitzvah was done with it, and the Gemara wants to prove one way or the other whether you get credit or you don't get credit. And that's what we're up to today. We are on 38. 38. What number, Mr. Haber, on your page? It's 38-2. Motiv Rav Nachman Yitzchak on the first column on the left side. Motiv Rav Nachman Yitzchak. Lulav hagozel v'hayavesh. Adam, if you can send that to the group that we're on, unless you think it's going to wake somebody up. What?
No, that would be a good.
That would be a good thing. Okay. Motiv Rav Nachman Yitzchak. Lulav hagozel v'hagozul v'hayavesh pasul. It says in the Mishnah that a lulav that's stolen or a lulav that's dry, might need the help over here, right? I'm gonna get it back to thank you very much. A lulav that's stolen or a lulav that's dry is invalid. Hasha'ul, the inference is the Mishnah only mentioned if it's stolen or dry. What if it's borrowed? It would work. The Mishnah does not mention it's a problem here if the lulav is borrowed. Now we all know a borrowed lulav on the first day is no good, but the Torah says it has to belong to you. So therefore, if that's the case, the Gemara wanted to say, kashor kashur. If it was borrowed, it would be kosher. Amen. What day of the holiday are we talking about? We can't be talking about the first day of the holiday because borrowed wouldn't be good. Ilem b'yontav rishon haktiv lachem says it has to belong to you. Mishal lachem v'lavdi deyu. It's not yours. So elamai elav b'yontav sheni. So the Mishnah is talking about after the first day of the holiday, and the Mishnah states, and therefore the Mishnah does not say it's no good if it's borrowed, because after the first day it is good if it's borrowed. We said in halacha there's discussion about the outside of Israel, what's the status of the second day itself. But the rest of the holiday, it's kosher if it's borrowed. And yet the Mishnah says Tani Gozul Pasul. So the case of the Mishnah that the Mishnah states stolen is no good has to be talking about the rest of the holiday. Because if it's the first day of the holiday, it should not have just said if it's stolen, it's pasul. It should have said the bigger chidush. Even if it's borrowed, it's invalid. By stating that it's only invalid if it's stolen, has to be talking about, but not borrowed, talking about the rest of the holiday. Is that clear? Because if it's the first day of the holiday, then the Mishnah should have stated not only it's stolen, it's no good, even if it's borrowed, it's no good. Adam, you can't borrow a lulav the first day of the holiday, right? You have to own it the first day of the holiday. So if the Mishnah does not state borrowed is no good, obviously it's talking about a case that borrowed would be good. When is borrowed good? The rest of the holiday. And at the same breath, the Mishnah states stolen is no good. So what do we see? So we see from here, so why is it no good the rest of the holiday if it's stolen? The answer is most probably because it's a mitzvah that comes as a result of a sin. And a mitzvah that comes as a result of a sin, you do not get credit for. Now, the other opinion that says that you would get credit for it, Tosfos says that's only because the mitzvah was a rabbinic obligation the rest of the holiday, but the only Torah obligation the first day of the holiday, and therefore the rabbis were easygoing and light and lenient. And they said that if the whole mitzvah is rabbinic, and you did it with stolen goods, we'll let you. We don't have to do it again. So they were easygoing. Like, if you have a safek, if you said a bracha on the drink, right? If you're not sure if you said a shachakol or you didn't say a shachakol, right? You always try to make sure you say a shachakol before you have a drink. If you're not sure if you said a shachakol, what do? You wrote a safek bracha l'hakel. And there's also, even independent of that rule, there's something called safek rabbanan, the kula. The rabbi said that when you have a question in a rabbinic idea, if it's a question whether you fulfill your mitzvah, or you did your mitzvah, so if it's a rabbinic question, the rabbi said you could be lenient. If you didn't say the bracha, you must say the bracha. If I didn't say shakol, so you got to say it. Even though you started drinking, you drank 10 ounces already, you didn't say shakol, you say a shakol for the next what you drank. But if you're not sure if I said a shakol, Since the bracha before you're drinking is rabbinic, Rabbi say you don't have. If you're not sure, you wouldn't say. You wouldn't do it. So being that's the case, so this other rabbi holds that's in a rabbinic mitzvah, the rabbis were easy on you, and even if it was stolen, and you did the mitzvah with the stolen goods, but if the whole responsibility of the mitzvah was rabbinic, we'll say you don't have to do it again. That's how Tosfos understands this opinion. Others understand even if in a biblical mitzvah, we were not going to obligate you to do it again. So that's the Gemara's point. So the Gemara says no proof. So the Gemara says no proof. Amar Rava. Rava says, L'olam b'yom tov rishon. Rava says, really, the Mishnah is talking about the first day of the holiday. When the Mishnah states that it's stolen and it's dry, the Mishnah is talking about the first day of the holiday. The obvious question is, it's talking about the first day of the holiday. So why didn't the Mishnah state that if it's borrowed, it's no good, right? Right, Mr. Haber? If it's the first day of the holiday, so the Mishnah should have stated the bigger novelty, the bigger chiddush. Not only if it's stolen, even borrowed, not stolen. I borrowed it. I asked you permission. You said yes, and I still can't do it on the first day. So why did the Mishnah say that chiddush? So the Gemara says the reason is because the Mishnah is not telling us the obvious. The Mishnah is telling us something which we would not have known. The Mishnah, the intention of the Mishnah is not to say specifically stolen, it's forbidden, you won't get your credit for the mitzvah. But if it's borrowed, you would get your credit for the mitzvah. No, when it's borrowed, it doesn't belong to you. And therefore, if it's not yours, we know the Torah says, "Lakachtem lochem b'yom harishon." The Torah said you have to take it for yourself on the first day. So the Torah was very clear and open that it has to belong to you. So I don't need to tell you that. But maybe if it was stolen, stam gzela yush bailim. At the average case, when somebody steals something from somebody, usually a person gives up hope. Rashi says, it was stolen in front of the guy's face. A guy stole it from you directly, and you weren't able to save it from the thief. So usually a person gives up hope. You would have said that the person would give up hope. And if he would give up hope, and then you would say it would be belong to the thief. What does that mean to belong to the thief? Because if this opinion would hold that the fact that if someone steals something, and then not only he stole it, the owner gave up hope. So this opinion holds then the thief has a financial obligation to pay him back at that point. When the fact that the guy gave up hope, you don't have to give back the item itself. That's this opinion. But what you have to give back is financial obligation. And once you don't have to give back the item itself, you own the item. So you would have said that if someone steals something from somebody, most probably the guy gave up hope, and the guy gave up hope, now the thief now owns it, and he owes money. So if he owes money and he owns it, so you would have said he would be able to fulfill his mitzvah with this item because he owns it. He only owns it. He owns the item. The thief now owns it and he owes money. So if he owns it and he owes money, so then maybe the thief can fulfill his mitzvah of lulav. It's like it belongs to him. And this opinion is not worried about a mitzvah that comes as a result of a sin. And it would seem from here, the way we're explaining, he would not hold a mitzvah come from a sin even on a Torah mitzvah, because the first day of the holiday is a Torah mitzvah. And he would not be concerned of a mitzvah coming as a result of a sin. Therefore, Kamash Malan, the Mishnah teaches us that we do not say that the average person gives up hope when somebody steals something from him, even if he steals something from him directly in daylight. Because maybe in daylight, I had no ability, the victim, had no power to do anything. But tomorrow, I'm going to get the police on the deal. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to bring him to court. So therefore, people are not going to give up hope so fast. Since they're not going to give up hope so fast, therefore, if it was stolen, you cannot fulfill your obligation with a stolen lulav. because the thief never acquired the lulav. It still doesn't belong to him. There was no transfer of ownership from the victim to the thief because the victim never gave up hope. That is again, when the victim gives up hope, what are we saying according to this opinion? If he gives up hope and now the thief has it, the thief has a monetary obligation. He doesn't have to give back the actual thing that he stole. Because if he stole an item, the Torah says you return the item you stole. But there is a time period that the thief does not have to return the actual item. If he changed the item, it's a different item. He doesn't have to return that item. It's returned monetary. And this opinion holds not only if you change the item, you don't have to give back this item, even if you didn't change it. But the mere giving up hope of the owner on this item is enough to make it that now you have a monetary obligation. And now you could keep this item. That's this opinion. We're not saying that's the halacha, but that's what the opinion this opinion holds. Okay. And therefore, the kamash malon of the Gemara, the chidush of the Gemara is that we don't say the guy gave up hope until we hear that the guy says, I give up hope. I lost it. You know, someone breaks into someone's car today, in today's day and age, and they steal someone's briefcase, they're giving up hope from getting it back. Am I correct? I don't think anybody is hopeful too much they're going to get back their briefcase that was stolen from the car. But at least in those days, at least here, first of all, because you didn't know who stole it. You don't know, but here, you mean the guy breaks into your car, you don't know who stole it. It'd be hard to find who did it. But when a guy steals it directly from you, so then you hold that maybe tomorrow I'll bring him to court, bring the guy to court. And therefore the victim does not give up hope, and therefore it still belongs, the ownership of the item is owned by the original owner, the victim, and therefore it's not owned by the thief. And if the thief wants to fulfill his mitzvah, he cannot fulfill his mitzvah the first day of the Yom Tov because it does not belong to him. And the Torah says the first day of the Yom Tov, you have to own it. Is that clear? Everybody got it? Adam? Good? Okay. Now comes another interesting piece. And we're going to explain this following Gemara. There's different ways to explain this Gemara. It's not a simple Gemara. Very complex Gemara. We're going to take this Gemara and explain it with the opinion that says a mitzvah that goes as a result of a sin, you still will fulfill your mitzvah. Okay? We said there's two opinions in the Gemara. A mitzvah that comes as a result of a sin, do you get credit for the mitzvah? You don't get credit for the mitzvah. So we're going to explain this following Gemara that it's going with the opinion that a mitzvah that comes as a result of a sin will get credit. You still will get credit. So let's listen to what the Gemara says. Now, when you need to have hadassim for your lulav, you got the hadassim and the aravot. So we had a rabbi, Amul Rav Huna. We have Rav Huna said, Rav Huna told the people, the merchants that were buying the stuff, were 30A2 on the right column, right paragraph. Amul Rav Huna lahanohu. Rav Huna said to the Hano Avan Kirei. The Avan Kirei are the wheelers and the dealers, the merchants, the middlemen that sell us the hadassim, right? They are the merchants that are out on the field that are the ones that are selling us the hadassim. So he told them the following. What did he tell them? He told them when you go, you shouldn't cut the hadassim from the field. You know who should cut the hadassim from the field? Let the non-Jewish owner who you're buying it from, let him be the one who is cutting the hadassim from the field. I just wanted to get this. Yeah, he said, let him be the one to cut the hadassim from the field. What's the concern? The concern is a certain amount of the fields that were in people's possession. Here, let's say you go into the non-Jewish person. Many times the non-Jew might have stole from the Jew. The property might have been not belonging to the non-Jew. And since it might not belong to the Jew, to the non-Jew that you're buying it from, so now there's going to be an issue. Because we got to make sure that the hadassim that you're using hadassim that are yours. And if you're using hadassim that are not yours, you don't get credit for the mitzvah. Because the same way it says lakachtem lachem b'yom harishon, we said it has to belong to you. It has to belong to you. It has to belong to you. All the items, the first day of the holiday, all the items has to belong to you. The hadassim, the aravot, the lulav, the etrog, has to belong to you. And if it's stolen, and if somehow you do not acquire it, that it still belongs to, if it's stolen, if it still belongs to the original owner, the Jew, so you're actually using hadassim and aravot that belong to a Jew and not yours, meaning you're buying stolen goods. How do you make sure that the goods that you have are not stolen? So what do you do to make sure that, or to make sure that even if it is stolen, that you are still fulfilling your mitzvah? So what does he tell them to do? Listen to what he says to the people the following. When you go, ki amalahu Rav Huna, you have it? Amala Rav Huna lahnu avakna kari. He tells the merchants that wheel and deal in the Daled Minim of the fourth species to buy for the holiday. When you're going to the non-Jewish person who grows hadassim, who has the hadassim in his field, lo tigzizu atun. You don't cut the hadassim. You go into the field, you want to buy the stuff from the guy, you don't cut the stuff. Let him cut the stuff. Let him cut the stuff off the ground. Let the non-Jew cut it, and let them give you the hadassim after they cut the hadassim. Now, what is the reason for this? So the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, my timer. What's the reason why he tells them, you cut the hadassim? Sorry, the guy, tell you, the merchants, you don't cut the hadassim. And these are Jewish merchants, right? Who's wheeling and dealing? Who's selling the aravot? You want to buy a ravot? You want to buy hadassim? Who's selling? The Jewish people are selling the hadassim. Who's selling the lulav, Mr. Haber, right? So he tells the Jewish people, when you go buy the hadassim, you're buying it from someone. You're buying it. You're not. These guys are not. These are businessmen. They're not necessarily the farmers. You're getting the merchandise from somebody, and when you're buying it from the non-Jew. Make sure that the owner of the field, who's standing in the field, he's the one who's cutting it. My timer. Stam of the gachavim gazlone aratanin. Many times these non-Jews stole fields that belong to the Jew. Maybe he stole it, or maybe the non-Jew's ancestors stole it. And this is a place where, let's say, where there's a lot of Jews, let's say in the Holy Land of Bavel. That's where you should be concerned about such a thing. That's how some explain. And therefore, now we're turning the page. Vikarka, now we are on 30b. Vikarka einen exela. And here's a very interesting idea. If somebody takes over land, if somebody walks into your land, and he throws you out of your property. So not like the United States in New York, if someone goes ahead and a squatter comes into someone's property, they'll give him rights to the property. And they'll make it his property, maybe. I don't know. I mean, but we don't have such a law like that. That guy's a squatter, he comes into property, it's his property. You have to have a claim why you're doing that. What makes it yours? Could you just take over someone's property that makes it yours? But even when the guy goes into the property, there's such a thing called, there's certain things you could steal. Somebody goes ahead and he takes your apple, he takes your wallet, he stole your wallet. Now it's in his possession. It's in the possession of the thief. It's no longer in the possession of the owner. But when it comes to land, you can't pick up land. Does the thief put the land in his pocket? Does it pick up the land, put his land in the pocket? The land, as much as the thief throws a guy off a property, the property is still considered in the same place as it was before. It's still considered in the hand of the original owner. That means to say, we spoke about the idea that if somebody steals your wallet, steals your briefcase, there's a concept that maybe after he steals it, and if you, the owner, gives up hope from ever getting the thing back. So the question is it at that point now transferred over to the thief? Now that you gave up hope and he has it, at that time does now belong to the thief and he has a monetary obligation? Or other opinion says, no, it doesn't belong to the thief at that time. He must still give back the item that he stole, even though you gave up hope. Good morning. But only if the thief sold it to someone else. There was a transfer to someone else's property after he stole it. Then then that monetary obligation is on the thief. But when it comes to land, even the owner gives up hope. Someone takes over someone's property, it does not go to the thief. The thief does not have any hold on the property to say now he only has to pay back possibly only money for the property. And he already acquired the property through his stealing, and the guy giving up hope. We don't say that. The only time it's considered really stolen in the sense that we have to get involved in the issue if he took a fruit off the tree. Now that's called stolen. But and now possibly if the owner gives up hope, there's a possibility of maybe the thief has to give a monetary payment. But until then, if he just occupying the land, there's no kinyan, there's no acquisition of the item by the thief, right? We're discussing when somebody steals something, it's something called a kinyan that the thief could acquire, has ability to acquire that stolen item, and he has a monetary obligation. But that doesn't apply to a field. So the Gemara says, Hilchach, ligzazuha inhu. Let the sellers, the non-Jewish sellers, go ahead and let them, the people who have the property, let them cut the hadassim. So now, if the owner, the guy who's sitting in the property in Hadass field, if he cuts it, now the original owner that we're concerned, maybe a Jewish guy owned it, gave up hope a long time ago. The non-Jew is occupying the field. He gave up hope a long time ago. So now there is giving up hope, and now that the non-Jew cut the hadassim, now there's the ability for this hadassim to be acquired by the thief because it's no longer attached to the field. It's not in the field anymore. So now that the thief has not only has cut it, he's cut the hadassim, and the owner gave up hope. And this opinion of the Gemara holds that's not enough for it to be transferred to the thief yet. In order for the thief to have a monetary obligation to give back the item, not the item itself, it's only if subsequently the thief gave it over to someone else or sold it to someone else. At that point, the thief has the obligation, one Ariel, of giving back the money. But until then, the item itself has to be given back. So the Gemara says, so if we go ahead and the non-Jewish person that occupied the land, Ariel, you said the Birkat Torah already. I just want to remind you, say Birkat Torah every day before you learn. You have to make sure you say the bracha Asher Kishon Masol Al Divrei Torah V'Arevna Hashem Alkeinu V'Toratcha Asher Bacha Banu Mikol Amim. Right? You have to say the Birkat Torah.
You asked the first time it's going to be like this.
And how many times you've come into the class? I don't ask you the question. It's like the American Express card. Don't leave home without it. Right, Mr. David? That was the commercial in the old nowadays, right? What can I tell you? I don't know. Hashem gave us special help today to be able to ask the question. So So the Gemara says, Kihechi, so therefore, let the non-Jewish person who's controlling the land, let him cut it. And therefore, now we have two things that came together. We're going to see this opinion here. You need three steps. You need it to be movable. The thing that you stole has to be movable in order for it to leave the domain of the possible. In order for it possibly leave the domain of the owner, it has to be movable. So now it's detached. Now it's movable. It's no longer attached to the ground. There was giving up hope by the original owner, the Jew who might have originally owned it, and also there is also, and then you go ahead and you sell it and you bring it to us. I buy it from the Jewish merchant. So what happened was there was giving up of hope. There was a movable item, and also there's a transfer. It went from the domain of the thief, possibly the non-Jew who had the field, and it went to the one who eventually gets the hadassim. So the Gemara and Shina Rishut will be daichu, and the Shina Rishut will be in the hand of the merchant, because now we have, just to bring Ariel up to date, the rabbi told the Jewish businessmen who would buy the hadassim to sell to the market, and that's what the Gemara was understanding at this point. He was telling them about when you're going to be selling to the market. If you're selling to the market, you don't cut the hadassim yourself, because maybe this non-Jewish person who you're buying the hadassim from, maybe they stole the field. So therefore there'll be an issue of stolen goods. So what you got to do is let the non-Jew who's in the field, who's controlling the hadassim field, let him cut the hadassim, and then afterwards you will now, then it will be transferred to you. And if it was owned by a non-Jew originally 50 years ago with Jewish property, like we have a situation in Poland and many places that they're living in non-Jewish property, meaning they took over property that belongs to Jews from the wartime, and now there's a whole situation. They try to reclaim the properties that originally owned by Jews, and people non-Jews are in the property. And Eretz Israel, you'll have also that situation. In 48 or other times that the Arabs took over land that Jewish people used to live in. And you have to figure out and prove that really this land was originally owned by Jews in order to get that land back. So that's what the Gemara says. In order for us to ensure that when you're using your hadassim on Yom Tov, that you're not using stolen goods, because the Torah says kachtem lechem, has to belong to you. So you go ahead and what do? You tell the non-Jew who's in the field, he's occupying this hadassim field, let him cut the hadassim. After he cuts the hadassim, and now we know if a Jew once owned this field 50 years ago, he's long time give up hope will ever get this field back. So there's something called yush, giving up of hope. Plus, it's a movable item, and plus it left the hand of the thief because you, the buyer of the hadassim, now it's in your possession. So now at that point, it's definitely the thief has a monetary obligation to pay back, and now the Jew who bought the hadassim, the wholesalers or the guys the sellers, the guys who are selling on the market, they have hadassim that now are technically owned by them. It's really owned by them. Even if this was once stolen goods, it's no longer that stolen goods. Now has been acquired by the merchants, and the thief would have an obligation to pay back the monetary value.
So the merchant doesn't know it's stolen goods?
But the merchant doesn't know that we don't know. There's a possibility that it's stolen. We don't, and because there's possibility it's stolen, maybe we're going to go out of our way for the mitzvah we need to make sure that we didn't do the mitzvah with stolen goods.
This would only apply to the movable property, not the
right. The land itself, you never could go ahead and you can never, if it's possibly stolen, then it's always possibly stolen. But here we're saying that in order for the actual hadassim to be owned, that it's definitely owned by the person, by the merchant. Definitely it's going to be considered belonging to the merchant, even if it was possibly once upon a time stolen goods, because it's too far distance away from the victim, the victim gave up hope, And he gave there was one. We had three. It's a movable item. The victim gave up whoever who might have owned it 50 years ago. He gave up hope on any hadassim that will grow from that field, and it's no longer in the domain of the thief because it was who stole it, the non-Jew who might be on the property. Now the non-Jew who was on the property really sold it to the Jew. So now the Jew, the merchant, he owns it. Who has responsibility to pay back the original owner? The non-Jew who took over the land. And therefore he has a monetary obligation. So the Gemara shoots back. So why do we need the non-Jew to cut it? You know what you should do? You should think about it like this. So ki gazu avant kere, if the Jewish merchant would cut it, we would have like this. If the Jewish merchant comes into the field. Now, even though this concern, let's say, is a small concern that it was stolen. Most of the time, it's not a stolen field. But we're just concerned for the time that maybe that's what one of the commentators say. Maybe it was stolen, and then the original owner will come back afterwards and say, you know what? That was stolen field. And we're afraid of that. And therefore came out, you might have used hadassim that don't belong to you. So we have to make sure that somehow that at the end of the day, this is you own this hadassim. So the Gemara says, you know how you can make sure? You, the Jew, the Jewish merchant, go into the field, you cut the hadassim. If it was stolen goods, the original owner gave up hope to ever get it back. Why did he give up hope? Because the guy has had this field for a long time. No, I couldn't do anything about it. I gave up hope ever getting this field back. And it's no longer by the thief because it's already transferred to the merchant's domain because the merchant cut the hadassim. So it's no, and therefore you have a change of location, location of domain because it's no longer by the thief. And if it's no longer by the thief, see when the Torah says you have to return the thing that you stole. But if you don't have it anymore, and the owner gave up hope, you don't have that responsibility to give back the item anymore. The item now belongs to the person who the thief sold it to, but the thief has the responsibility to pay the obligation. Being that the owner gave up hope already to ever get it back, but the thief still has obligation to pay back. But the guy who bought it from the thief, if the owner gave up hope, he doesn't have to give it back. He could keep what he bought. The thief has responsibility to pay back the original owner who had given up hope. So the Gemara says, when the merchants cut it, and so then lahavi used by limbidayu. Let us say that giving up hope in the hands of the merchants, v'shine reshut biyadam, and then there's a change of domain when it goes into our hands, meaning to say, even if let's say the buyers, when the buyers cut, when the Jewish merchants, if they cut the hadassim, right? So maybe at that moment, it's considered stolen. If we're concerned that it's possibly stolen, so when was it considered stolen? The moment the merchants cut it. They did the act of stealing, but until now it's not really stolen because it was immovable property. It's only considered you really now you stole it when the Jewish guy would cut it. But if the Jewish guy cuts it and if he stole it, but the original owner gave owner gave up hope, and now if I buy it from him, so now I who bought it from the Jewish merchant, there was already given up hope, change of domain, so it definitely belongs to me. I can fulfill my mitzvah with it. And really, the Gemara is not. I said, what's the word question? Let the Jewish guy cut it, but maybe the Jewish guy is stealing. So we're saying most of the time it's not stolen goods. So maybe we don't have to be worried that it's stolen to that extent to say that the Jewish guy shouldn't be able to cut it. But just to ensure that I'm getting my mitzvah. So therefore, I'm going to get my mitzvah. The guy who's buying from the Jewish merchant will get his mitzvah because there was change of domain, there was giving up hope, and it's a movable item. So the Gemara answers, "Lo tzricha." You're right. If the Jewish guy would be able, the Gemara is saying, according to this opinion, he could cut it and give it and sell it to me. But you know what the problem is? He was talking when the Jewish merchant wanted to use it for himself. He wanted to use the Hadassah for his own mitzvah. So if he wants to use it for his own mitzvah, then he has stolen goods because he's the one who stole it. Because of the possibility that he stole it, and now he wants to use it because there's a good chance, there's a small minority of the non-Jews stole that land. And now I'm going to go ahead and use that land, use that Hadassim. I'm me cutting it, I'm causing the thievery. And then I am not yet owning it. And this opinion says it's not acquired unless it's change of domain to someone else. And if I am the one who actually stole it, if I, the Jew, cut the Hadassim, I did the act. The possibility is that I might have stolen it through cutting the Hadassim, and therefore it's not mine. It's not mine. I can't fulfill my mitzvah of Hadassim that belongs to me. That's what the Gemara said. No nitzrucha, but Belshana davan keri gufayu. It's the Hoshana. It's called the Hoshana. The lulav and the esrog and the Hadassah Rabbah, they all refer to it. They refer to it as the Hoshana. It's referring to the Hadassim. The Hadassim, the Hadassim of these merchants themselves. If they want to use it for their own lulav and esrog, Jewish merchants also have to do the mitzvah. So he was telling them, I want you for your own mitzvah, you got to make sure you shouldn't cut them. Make sure the non-Jewish guy who owns the field, he let him cut it, and therefore if it's stolen, he, the non-Jew, is doing the act of stealing by cutting it, because he's cutting stolen goods, and now the original owner gave up hope, and now it goes into you, the buyer, the Jewish merchant's domain. So now it belongs to you. You acquire, it's yours, and the thief, the possible thief, has the obligation to pay back to the owner. Okay, it's a very complex Gemara. We have a lawyer in here that I think was easy for the lawyer to follow all the different details of the case. We'll be continued on Monday. We should remember Sunday night to send to the group to say that we're looking for that we're back in full swing on Monday. Thank you all for joining. And very complicated Gemara, everybody. It's not a simple Gemara. Gotta keep focus.